Pensions webinar. I'm Wilma Brown, the Interim Chair for the Scottish Health Committee, and I'm joined this evening by Willie Duffy, the Head of Health for UNISON Scotland. We're going to start off with a presentation from Willie, and we'll take comments and questions. We've got people keeping an eye on the chat, so if you want to put questions or comments in there, we can pick them up from there also. Without further ado, we'll move straight on and over to Willie.
Okay, thanks, Wilma. As Wilma says, I'm Willie Duffy. I'm the Head of Health UNISON Scotland. I'm also the UNISON representative on the Scheme Advisory Board, and I'm currently the co-chair of the Scheme Advisory Board, which is a board that reports into the Scottish Public Pension Agency. And part of our function over the last couple of months, last year in fact, has been to look at proposed pension contribution increases from the 1st of April 2022. What I'm going to do tonight is to sort of run you through some of the background, current contribution rates, what the majority of the Agenda for Change trade unions thought we should bring out for proposals, then look at what the government are proposing through their proposals, and then just to finish by things that UNISON are doing. I think it's important, just so people are aware, your pension scheme is valued every 4 years. It should have been valued back in 2018. A reason for not doing a valuation at that time was because of the uncertainty around which some of you will have heard of and been party to some of the discussions about the McLeod remedy. And as a result of discussions ongoing about McLeod, pension contributions were paused as a result of that. Last year, this issue was raised again with the Scheme Advisory Board, and there was a number of discussions over a period of time. And essentially, we got to a position that the yield, which effectively is the pension contributions that the scheme members make, needs to be 9.8%. For the last number of years, it had been 9.6%, so there was a shortfall in the yield of 0.2. We'd also be having discussions around how we actually calculate people's pensionable pay. As it currently stands, the pay your pay is based on your pensionable pay is based on the whole time equivalent rate that you're in. And if you're in a final salary scheme, that works okay, because when you retire, you get the benefits of the whole time equivalent salary rather than your part-time salary in terms of how your pensionable pay is made up. As we're moving to the care scheme, which is a career averaged revalued earning scheme, then the same benefits don't apply for part-time workers. So therefore, there was a need to actually move from whole-time equivalent to actual pay. And in these proposals that you'll see, that comes to 0.6%. So we had to make up sort of 0.8% on what your current pension contributions were. So just to also say that your employers currently pay 20.9% pensionable pay for all the people who are in the scheme. I think it's fair to say at this stage there was different views. There were different views within the trade union side. There were different views from the employers, and there was a different view in terms of the Scottish Government and the proposals they put forward. So what I want to do is spend maybe 10-15 minutes just running through how we've got to where we've got to, why the trade union side positioned herself in the manner that they did, what the proposals put forward by the Scottish Government mean, and how UNISON intend to consult with our members. I should have said at the start, we've got very limited period of consultation. We've got a 5-week period which started on the 26th of January and ends the 27th of February. And one of the reasons why that consultation is constrained is because we had difficulty in terms of getting getting agreement with UNSAB. So Tish, can you move me on to a slide, 2 slides, please? The next one, please, Tish. So what we have here is we've got the current contribution rates as of 2021, 2022. And you'll see from the left-hand column, there's 7 contribution tiers within the NHS Scotland Pension Scheme. The middle column that states whole time equivalent pay, and you'll see, for example, in tier 1, up to £20,605, you pay 5.2% for your contribution. 20,606 to 24,972, 5.8, and so on and so forth. I think it's worth just explaining at this point as well, in terms of the tax relief that people get in terms of the pension contributions. If you look at the 14.7, which is the highest contribution rate in NHS Scotland, when you apply the tax relief for that group of staff, then that works out about 7.7% that they actually pay. Whereas if you look at the 5.2 for the lowest paid in the NHS, when you apply the tax relief to that, it works out at 4.8%. So whilst there are relatively big figures at the top, there are benefits in terms of tax relief around that. Tricia, will you move it on, please? So as I said, we were having discussions within the Scheme Advisory Board and the staff side in terms of what might be an acceptable proposal or to come out for consultation with members. And as I said at the start, there was no agreement within the full staff side. All the Agenda for Change trade unions supported this proposal that you can see in front of you. And the British Medical Association, the British Dental Association couldn't and didn't support these proposals because they wanted the new arrangements for their members to pay less. And if you look at that, what the majority staff side position was to put 0.8% onto the current rates. And again, that was a proposal to come out. And I was certainly confident that we could come out and explain the rationale behind that. I've mentioned the move from whole time equivalent to actual pay, and I've mentioned the shortage in the yield. So that was where the majority of staff side got to. And we had a Scheme Advisory Board meeting in December, at which there were 3 proposals that were floated in front of the Scheme Advisory Board. One was this proposal from the staff side. There was another proposal from the BMA and the BDA, and there was a further proposal from the Scottish Government and the employers, which essentially is the proposals that we've got in front of us this evening and what's come out in the consultation document. So will you move that on another slide, please, Tricia? So this is what the proposed contribution rates are. And you'll see there'll still be 7 tiers, or the class 7 tiers, but within them, you'll see the likes of tier 7, they'll be the same from the previous 5, 6 and 7. And what this shows you is, if you look at, I think the first important point to draw from this slide is, you'll see that the pensionable earnings have actually changed, because in the current proposals, it's up to £20,605 is the pensionable pay. This now starts, tier 1 is up to £13,300, and you'll see from that 13,331 to 21,614, and so on and so forth. Now, column D talks about the rate from the 1st of April 2022, and this proposes a yield of 9.6%. That's 0.2% less than what the yield actually is. But in the proposed paper, the Scottish Government are proposing for the first year to pay that amount, which is £12 million, is what they're proposing to pay in year 1. So this is the proposal as it stands just now for members in year 1, what they would be expected to pay if these proposals are actually enacted and become the current contribution rates. So you'll see from column F that, well, column F, is what will happen come the 1st of April 2023. And you'll see from that the 5.9, the 5.2 goes up to 5.9 for up to 13,000. And then from £13,331 to 21,614, then it goes up to 6.5%. Now those figures that I've just mentioned are closest to the current arrangements up to £20,600. So we'll see members at the lowest paid in the National Health Service and the pension scheme paying from the 1st of April 1.3% more for their pensions, and you'll see the highest earners in the NHS will be paying 2% less for their pensions. Can you move it on to the next slide, please? Yeah. So what we've tried to capture here is in full-time pay up to 15,000, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. And I know a lot of people will actually fall within that. But if you just look at the graph, if you look on the right-hand side, there is cost to everybody up until £60,000. And once you get to £70,000 onwards, you either pay the same or you pay less. And I've been asked to do sort of figures in terms of what that means. If you just take the bottom there, £120,000, if I'm paying 2% less on £120,000 a year, that's £2,400 a year less that I'm paying for my pension. If I'm paying 15,000, if I'm on a full-time pay of 15,000 and I'm paying 1.3% of that, that's about £180 more I'm paying. If you take it at £20,000, it's over £200 a year more that people are paying into the pension schemes. And that's why we think from UNISON that these figures are totally unacceptable. And that's why when we come out through the consultation, we will be asking members to reject these proposals. And I'll come on in a couple of slides as to what we intend to do as an organisation around that. But I think this slide here just illustrates that the lowest paid will be asked to pay more into their pension and the highest paid will be asked to pay less into their pension. I have to say, without getting political, it hardly beggars well for the Scottish Government, whose policy position is to protect the lowest paid in society. And yet what we see here is the lowest paid paying the most and being disenfranchised through this. And I'll say at tonight's meeting, I've had 3 discussions with the Cabinet Secretary over the last couple of days about this, and I'm expecting to have a further discussion with them tomorrow after we've had our meeting tonight. And I've certainly laid it on the line that UNISON are totally opposed to these proposals. So you move it on, please, Tricia. So there's 7 questions that's in the consultation paper, and we'll be responding on your behalf as your trade union UNISON to the consultation. But as we come towards the end of the slides, we'll be also asking members to be participating in the consultation as well. Now, the first question, as you can see, is do you agree or disagree that the Scottish Government should pursue a yield position of 9.6 to avoid increasing contribution rates by an additional 0.2% to meet the target yield required by HM Treasury? Recognising that maintaining the 9.6 yield will require the Scottish Government to divert 12 million of vital health budget spending for the pension contribution shortfall in 2022-23. My initial thoughts on this is that we welcome that position from the Scottish Government. If it means less contributions to our members, then we would welcome that. But I suspect we'll be putting back in our consultation is that why only for the first year? Why don't they continue to pay that? But notwithstanding that, that will still mean the lowest paid are paying the bigger share than the highest paid in the pension scheme. And I have to say, I take great exception to the way that the question's put here. It's a sort of a moral issue here, and it's a sort of, do you know if you take this £12 million, we're going to have to divert it from urgent healthcare funding? Well, I think our members know what the health budget's like. I think our members are well aware that the health budget is inadequate, and I suspect, I know that our members know that staffing levels in NHS Scotland are not funded properly. So we're not going to take any lectures from anybody about the £12 million and the potential impact in patient care and the health budget. The second question deals with, do you agree with the member contribution rate should be based on actual annual rates of pay instead of members' notional whole time equivalent pay? I've touched on that a couple of minutes ago when I was sort of explaining that in a final salary scheme, basing it on a whole time equivalent actually works okay. But when you move to a career averaged revalued earnings scheme, then it doesn't work. And it means, because all you get out of a care scheme is what you actually put into your pension pot. And it's quite clear that, in my view, that if we continued with this practice, then we were potentially discriminating against part-time workers. And if you look at the sort of gender of that part-time workforce, they will be predominantly female. So I think it's absolutely right that we moved from whole-time equivalent to actual pay. And clearly we'll be asking these same questions of our members when we're coming out to talk to members about the Unison's response to the consultation. You move it on to the next one, please, Trish. I think the third question is quite easily answered, and no, right? We don't agree with this. Why would we agree with a contribution structure where the richer get richer and the poorer get poorer? It's against certainly any of the principles that I brought into my work with the trade union. And on that basis, we will not be agreeing with these proposals for the reasons that I've just outlined. The fourth question is around the difference just now between the NHS Scotland pension scheme and the English pension scheme is that you currently in your scheme, if you get a pay rise, then the contribution rates, the tiers actually go up corresponding to the pay rise. That doesn't happen in England, Wales, or Northern Ireland. And what that means from time to time, somebody could be getting a 2% pay rise down in England, and because that moves them into a higher contribution tier in the NHS, in the pension scheme, they're paying maybe 3% more for their pension. So they're effectively getting a pay cut. So a number of years ago, through the Scheme Advisory Board, and certainly the Unison position was to support that the thresholds are increased in line with annual agenda for change pay awards. And anybody that was on a previous webinar around the McLeod remedy, and anyone that's been at the Unison briefings will know that has cost the individual 0.2% of their pensionable pay. I am still of the view, I think it's a necessary tool to keep in our scheme, and my understanding of what is happening in the England and Wales scheme is that their proposals are now going to incorporate this and adopt this as part of their proposals. So going on to the next one, please, Trish. In terms of question 5, I do agree that they should be phased in over 2 years. But I think they should also be funded for the 2 years rather of the 4 years of the evaluation. And we'll certainly be making the comment back as part of the consultation, because clearly anything that benefits our members in the short term, we would obviously support. But I have to say, there wouldn't be the need for this phasing in to be part of an option if they'd supported the majority staff side view from the start, we wouldn't have had to look at this. And again, we'll be making that clear to them. Question 6 is around the regulations around the changes to the tiered contribution rate, about annual rate for part-time rather than the whole-time equivalent. So as I said, I think that's a bit of a repeat of one of the other questions, and it's certainly something that, in my view, we could and should have done a number of years ago, but it's more acute now, the fact that it's more important now, the fact that we're actually in a care scheme, and therefore we'll respond on that basis. So the next slide, please, Tish. And again, this is just one of the any considerations and evidence when assessing any equality issues. Well, I think there will be equality issues arising from this. And I will want to see an equality impact assessment done on these proposals, because I think, well, I know that these proposals, if they're enacted and carried through, will affect and harm the lowest paid that work in a health service. And as I said, they're predominantly female, low-paid part-time workers. Going to move on. The next one, please, Tish. So, as part of Unison's engagement with our members, right, we are running our own pensions survey, and we're asking members to contribute to that, and it will run until 18th of February. This is actually an idea that we adopted off one of our local branches who'd actually done this, and the information that came back was very, very helpful. It wasn't sort of very much different to what we thought the views of people should be, but it was really, really helpful to get people to participate in the survey. Because one of the big issues that's raised with me, with my pensions hat on, is a lot of people don't know which pension scheme they're in. They don't know if they're in the 95 section, they don't know if they're in the 2008 section, and they don't know if they're in the 2015 section. So the survey actually helps us try to capture that information. And as you'll see, the link for the survey's up there, and it's going to run until 18th of February. That will give us a week to actually assess the comments that have come back in, and it will influence what we actually put in our consultation back to the Scottish Government on this. The next bullet point there is around Lighthouse Financial Services. So I've said this before at meetings, and we say it every time we go out. There is nobody in Unison, whether it be myself as the lead for pensions in Scotland, or whether it's any of your branch activists, are able to give you financial advice. We're not regulated to give you financial advice, and therefore we shouldn't be given financial advice, and I'm very clear that's the position on that. Unison have an arrangement with Lighthouse Financial Services, who are independent financial advisors, who will be able to give you financial advice in terms of pensions and that. And you'll see from that, if you want a one-to-one telephone appointment, then there's a contact on there to actually do that. And I think that's going to be probably very important for staff, because one of my concerns about these proposals are that the lowest paid will not see the value in staying in a pension scheme, and the lowest paid will consider leaving the pension scheme. And that's on that basis, I think that's where they need to take some financial advice from Lighthouse family. Because if you come out the pension scheme, the employer has a duty under auto-enrolment to auto-enroll you back into a scheme, right? And that scheme will not be as good as the NHS pension scheme. And I know you can then opt out of that, and it's a recurring thing. But it's very important that people, I think, stay in the pension scheme and don't opt out the pension scheme, because pensions are about deferred pay, and it's important that you've got that you can rely on when you're retiring. So they'll give you the financial advice that I can't and won't give you, and it's free to Unison members, and the details are there. what we're also asking colleagues on the call today is to keep up to date with pensions and pay in Scotland. We need to know, you need to make sure that your membership details are up to date. And to do that, you can either call Unison direct on the number there, or you can go on My Line Unison, because it's important that we have accurate records and details of you, so that when we're going through issues such as consultation on things such as this, and also on pay, as we had to do last year, that we have an accurate membership database for you. Chess, can you move on to the next one, please? So there should have been another slide showing some of the details. I don't know what's happened to it, which shows you the details of how to link into the Unison webpage. We have a dedicated NHS Pensions section on our webpage that you can go on and get information from that. We're going to be holding a series of members' meetings across all the health boards in Scotland. Some will be by teams, some will be physical. We've had a discussion at our health committee on Monday about how we engage members on that, and it's important that we seek your views and you participate in this. So, Chair, that's me done a quick 25 minutes run through of what the consultation is and isn't, and be helpful to take. Happy to take any questions on that.
Thanks very much for that, Willie. That is a lot of information for people to take in during that time. And I think there's lots of answers being put up on the screen about where you can access that information. We've got quite a number of chats in there. There's Louise putting up again where you can find out that information. Do we have any direct questions, Louise or Nicola? We're just waiting on them being loaded.
There's someone asking.
I think what I'm hearing is that there's not direct questions. People are putting things in the chat, talking about the financial advice, for example, from Lighthouse. Yes, that is free advice. Lots of links to the consultation where people can get an opportunity to read that in a bit more depth. Free copies of the document could be made available. You can link in with your local branch and get those copies. I'm just running through it myself now.
There's a question come up.
Oh, we've got a question.
There's a question come up, and it's about will all employees get into the new scheme from the 1st of April? Everybody in the NHS pension scheme from the 1st of April will go into the 2015 care scheme. As part of the presentations we've been doing around McLeod and the remedies, the big decision is what people want to do with their service between 2015 and 2022. And Unison have been out extensively round branches, round members, explaining the details of McLeod. But everybody will move into the 2015 scheme on the 1st of April 2022, even if they had what they thought was lifetime protection, they will still go into the scheme.
Okay, thanks for that, Willie. Another one, Willie?
Well, if you opt out the scheme, then the employers will not contribute 20.9% into a SIP. What you'll then end up with is a stakeholder pension, which they vary from time to time. But what I would say to people who are urgent and thinking about coming out the pension scheme is there are still, well, firstly, the 2015 scheme is still a very good pension scheme by the scale of things. It still has some very good benefits. It has an ill health retirement benefit. So if you unfortunately have to retire on the grounds of ill health, if you're in the NHS pension scheme, you'll get your pension paid. There's two tiers to that. There's one that you could work you can't work in your own job but could work again, and that will give you access to your pension without any reduction. And there's the other tier, the upper tier, at which you'll not be able to do any meaningful employment, and you get added years to your pension. So if you have to ill health retirement, then that's an important benefit. The other thing I know from personal experience recently, that if you're in the scheme, there's a death in service payment paid to you of 2 times your salary. It works out at 2 years and 6 months, because you get 6 months paid and then you get another 2 years. If you're not in the NHS pension scheme, you don't get death in service. So whilst the changes to McLeod, whilst the proposed changes to the contributions will be difficult for people to actually live and bear with, then I think it's still important that if you can, you stay as part of the NHS pension scheme.
Thank you. Another one, Willie?
Well, Paula, if you go onto the Unison website, you'll see a letter that I wrote to SPPA a couple of months ago, because as part of the briefings that I was doing and the emails I was receiving, there was a number of complaints and criticisms about SPPA. I've wrote to them, and there's a response from them, and they've gave assurances around being in a position that they will be able to respond to people's pensions queries. So I think it's been loaded onto our webpage. Well, I'm assured it's been loaded onto our webpage, but we've certainly raised that on your behalf to SPPA. And I don't know about getting logged in. I can actually pick that up tomorrow or the next day when I get time, and I'll speak to the policy manager at the SPPA. Well, you find out by bizarrely asking the SPPA if you don't know. But as a rule of thumb, if you were in the health service prior to 2008, you're in a 95 scheme. The only reason you wouldn't be in the 95 scheme would be either you were in a pension scheme or you transferred with the choice exercise around about 2012 that allowed people in the 95 scheme to go into the 2008 scheme. When the 2015 scheme came in, if you were within 10 years of your normal pension age as of April 2012, you either had lifetime protection or and there was tapered protection for people just shortly over that. And everybody else would have went into the 2015 scheme as of 2015. However, the McLeod remedy is allowing people at the time of retirement to consider where they want their service between 2015 and 2022. So if you were in the 95 scheme and put into the 2015 scheme prior to the 1st of April 2022, you will have the opportunity to consider how you want that 7 years of your pension calculated, and similarly with the 2008. So if you don't know what scheme you're in, then I'd just say you need to contact the SPPA, who should be telling you which scheme you're in. Well, in terms of the question that's been put up, will Unison ask members to do anything? Clearly, we'll need to have a discussion within the Unison structures around that, and it's whether members would be willing to take any action against the imposition of any pension increases. I think at the same time that these contribution increases will be, if they're agreed, will be coming into pay and play, then we'll be consulting on pay for NHS workers. So our democratic structures will need to take, and our members will need to take a view on whether these proposals are that they're so upset and angry with these proposals that they call on us to take some form of industrial action. And if you look at the history of industrial action in the health service over the last 15 years, the last time we took any effective industrial action was over pensions in 2011, 2012. But if that's what the members say to us they want Unison to do, then we will do that. I have to, however, caution in saying that anybody that's aware of the anti-trade union legislation will know how difficult it is to get over the thresholds. But that's something that we will pick up through the consultation. It's something our health committee will consider, and it's something branches will feed into that. The pension ages are different for the three schemes. The 95 section has a normal pension age of 60, or 55 if you had what's known as special class status, mental health officer status. The 2008 section is a normal pension age of 65, and the 2015 care scheme doesn't have a stipulated age on it. The age retirement is based on people's state pension age. So it's when you pick up your state pension, you will be able to lift your occupational pension without any abatement. And I can't see people on the call today, but when I've done meetings across the Lindsay Breath of Scotland, there are people that for some will be 65, some for 66, some will be 67, and some will be 68. And indeed, if the present government get their way, there are discussions about moving that to 69. So if you're in the care scheme, that will be the age at which you can take that element of your pension. No, you don't lose the benefits of your old scheme if you don't take the new one. What happens is that all the benefits in your previous scheme are protected. So if you, in 2015, moved from the 95 into the 2015 scheme, you will still have all your protected benefits under your 95 section. At the time of retirement, you'll be able to consider what you want to do with your service between 2015 and 2022. And that's what's known as the remedy period. And you can actually have those benefits up to 2022 protected in your 95 section. What that means is you can take that element of your pension at 60 or 55 if you special class status without any abatement. And that's why when we've been doing the McLeod remedy sort of pension roadshows, we make that very clear in terms of what the opportunities are for individuals. And again, at that point, people are encouraged by myself and others to go and seek independent financial advice on that. That's a good question. I'll need to pass you on to the techie people. That I'm just wheeled out to come and do these. I still got to turn on my computer, never mind my Facebook. I think it's going on our Facebook page. It will be going. Branches will be asked to disseminate the information as well. Yeah, but I think we'll be doing that.
Okay, I don't think there's any more questions there for you, Willie. There's Nicola just putting up some details. I think I could safely say that there will be links put onto the Facebook pages for the survey. That'll happen if it's not already there. Oh, there we are. Anything else? Anybody got any more comments? Anything you'd like Willie to go over? No, well, we're not going to hold people up. If everybody's got all the information they need, there's certainly enough links. You might be able to get back into the chat and copy some of those links. Please do access as much information as you need. This is really important. We need you to read this information to be aware of what the consultation means to all of us and what we should be doing. Thanks very much for participating tonight, and please look out for local meetings coming up as Willie's already described. Thanks everyone. Goodbye.